Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Ruttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Neshriki Om Agnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी नित्य नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Okay, we continue conversation between Kardama Muni and Devahuti, chapter 25, verse 41. Nanyatra mad bhagavata pradhana purusheshwarat atmana sarvabhutanam bhayam tivram nivartate. The terrible fear of birth and death can never be forsaken by anyone who resorts to any shelter other than myself. For I am the Almighty Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the original source of all creation and also the supreme soul of all souls. It is indicated herein that the cycle of birth and death cannot be stopped unless one is a pure devotee of the Supreme Lord. It is said, Harim vina na mritim taranti. One cannot surpass the cycle of birth and death unless one is favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The same concept is confirmed herewith. One may take to the system of understanding the absolute truth by one's own imperfect sensory speculation, or one may try to realize the self by the mystic yoga process, jnana yoga. But whatever one may do, unless he comes to the point of surrendering to the Supreme Lord, no process can give him liberation. So even if somebody follows the path of jnana yoga, which is dhyana, still they have to surrender to the Supreme Lord. If they don't have a concept of Supreme Lord, if they don't surrender to him, then they can't get liberation, even though those paths are designed for liberation. Gnana and dhyana are designed for liberation. But still they will not give liberation, get liberation unless they surrender to the Supreme Lord. One may ask if this means that those who are undergoing such penance and austerity by strictly following the rules and regulations are endeavoring in vain. The answer is given by Srimad Bhagavatam. Yenye Aravindaksha Vimuktamaninaha. Lord Brahma and other demigods prayed to the Lord when Krishna was in the womb of Devaki. My dear lotus-eyed Lord, there are persons who are puffed up with the thought that they become liberated, or one with God, or have become God. Yeah. But in spite of thinking in such a puffed up way, their intelligence is not laudable. They are less intelligent. It is stated that their intelligence, whether high or low, is not even purified. In purified intelligence, a living entity cannot think otherwise than to surrender. In pure intelligence, one living entity will surrender. Bhagavad Gita therefore confirms that purified intelligence arises in the person of a very wise man. Who is a very wise man? Bhuvnam Janmanam Ante Gnanavan Mam Prapadyate. Person who has followed the path of jnana for many, many births. After many, many births, one who is actually advanced in intelligence surrenders unto the Supreme Lord. We have discussed this before. This is the gradual step-by-step process of going back home, back to Godhead, which is karma, then frustrated with karma, then in jnana, then move forward. Right? Either from jnana they can come to dhyana or they can come to bhakti. Without the surrendering process, one cannot achieve liberation. The Bhagavatam says those who are simply puffed up, thinking themselves liberated by some non-devotional process, are not polished or clear in intelligence, for they have not surrendered unto you. Mm. So their intelligence is not clear, is not pure. Why? Because they have not surrendered unto Krishna. In spite of executing all kinds of austerities and penances, or even arriving at the brink of spiritual realization in Brahman realization. They think that they are in the effulgence of Brahman, but actually, because they have no transcendental activities, they fall down to material activities. So, one who even reaches Brahman can fall down. Mm. One should not be satisfied simply with knowing that one is Brahman. He must engage himself in the service of the Supreme Brahman. That is bhakti. The engagement of Brahman should be the service of Parabrahman. It is said that unless one becomes Brahman, one cannot serve Brahman. So Brahma Bhuta Prasannatmana Sochati Akanchiti. So we have to come to Brahma Bhuta stage. The Supreme Brahman is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the living entity is also Brahman. Without realization that he is Brahman, spirit soul, an eternal servant of the Lord, if one simply thinks that he is Brahman, uh, his realization is only theoretical. Without realization that he is a servant of the Lord, his realization is theoretical. He has to realize and at the same time engage himself in the devotional service of the Lord. Then he can exist in the Brahman status. Otherwise, he falls down. The Bhagavatam says that because non-devotees neglect the transcendental loving service of the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, their intelligence is not sufficient. Therefore, these persons fall down. So, without transcendental loving service, without bhakti, they fall down. The living entity must have some activity. If he does not engage in the activity of transcendental service, he must fall down to material activity. As soon as one falls down to material activity, there is no rescue from the cycle of birth and death. It is stated here by Lord Kapila, without my mercy, Nanyatra Mad Bhagavata. The Lord is stated here to be Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, indicating that he is full of all opulences and is therefore perfectly competent to deliver one from the cycle of birth and death. He is also called Pradhana because he is the Supreme. He is equal to everyone, but to one who surrenders to him, he is especially favorable. So one who surrenders to Krishna, Krishna is especially favorable. Of course, we can't understand his favor so easily, but we should understand that he is especially favorable. Mm. Our life situations might seem totally different, might seem completely unfavorable, but still they are favorable, especially favorable, if we have surrendered to Krishna. It is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita that the Lord is equal to everyone. No one is his enemy and no one is his friend. But that to one who surrenders unto him is especially inclined. By the grace of the Lord, simply by surrendering unto him, one can get out of the cycle of birth and death. Otherwise, one may go on in many, many lives and many, many times attempt and many times attempt other process for liberation. See, simply by surrendering, we can actually get liberation. So, simply by surrendering, simply by accepting the process of devotion, uh, one can very easily get liberation. But liberation is not our goal. Our goal is Krishna Prema. So, because our goal is Krishna Prema, even though we have got liberation, so we make progress and we get liberation, still we might come back because we have not achieved Krishna Prema. So we are then appear back in this material world in a transcendental platform. As in the Brahmabhuta stage we enter, we might again take birth, and then we might continue till we achieve prema. But of course, I mean, our Srila Prabhupada has promised that we'll go back to Godhead in one life if we follow the process. So there's no question of coming back. We will come back only if we desire to come back, not otherwise. If we simply follow the process with the desire to achieve Krishna Prema, then we will end up achieving. But anyway, surrender is a side effect which is very easily got by the devotee, you know, by practice of bhakti. Mm. And without surrendering to Krishna, no other process can help. That is very, very important. So one should not waste time in other process, but should simply come to Krishna and engage in his devotional service. 42. Madbhayad vati vatoyam suryastapati madbhayat varshatindro dahatyagnir mrityuscharati madbhayat. Everything is madbhayat. Mm. It is because of my supremacy that the wind blows out of fear of me, sun shines out of fear of me, Lord of clouds Indra sends forth showers out of fear of me, fire burns out of fear of me, and death goes about taking its toll out of fear of me. Everybody is afraid of the Supreme Lord except we misbehaving jivas who don't even care for him. Look at our position. Hmm. Jivas in this material world don't care for the Supreme Lord, let alone fearing his presence. And all the great demigods and all the powerful Shaktis, everybody work out of fear of Krishna. And Krishna is the supreme authority. So everybody has to just follow whatever he says or he ordains. Supreme Person of Godhead Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that the natural laws being enacted are correct in all activities because of his superintendence. No one should think that nature is working automatically without superintendence. The Vedic literature says that the clouds are controlled by demigod Indra, heat is distributed by sun god, soothing moonlight by Chandra, and the air is blowing under the arrangement of demigod Vayu. But all these demigods, above all these demigods, Supreme Personality Godhead is the chief living entity. Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. The demigods are also ordinary living entities, but due to their faithfulness, their devotional attitude, they've been promoted to such posts. These different demigods or directors such as Chandra, Varuna, Vayu are called Adhikari Devata. The demigods are departmental heads. The government of the Supreme Lord consists not only of one planet or two or three, there are millions of planets and millions of universes. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has a huge government and he requires assistants. The demigods are considered his bodily limbs. These are the descriptions of Vedic literature. Under these circumstances, the sun god, moon god, fire god, air god are working under the direction of the Supreme Lord. It is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, Maya Dakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam. Natural laws are being conducted under his superintendence. Because he is in the background, everything is being performed punctually and regularly. One who has taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is completely protected from all other influences. He no longer serves or is obliged to anyone else. Uh, of course, he is not disobedient to anyone, but his full power of thought is absorbed in the service of the Lord. Statements by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Kapila that under his direction the air is blowing, fire is burning, sun is giving heat are not sentimental. The impersonalists may say that the Bhagavatam devotees create and imagine someone as the Supreme Person of Godhead and assign qualifications to him. But actually, it is neither an imagination nor an imposition of artificial power in the name of Godhead. In the Vedas, it is said, Bhishasmad Vata Pavate Bhishodeti Suryaha. By fear of Supreme Lord, the wind god and the sun god are acting. So Prabhupada always quotes from the Vedas because many people don't accept Bhagavatam, Puranas. They want Vedas, Upanishads. Bhishasmad Agnis Chandrascha Mrityur Dhavati Panchamaha. Agni, Indra and Mrityu are also acting under his direction. These are the statements of the Vedas. So it is what is being repeated here by Lord Kapiladev. Mm. So this whole world, this whole creation is working on a very timely, regular manner because everybody is uh, obedient to the rules of the Lord. Only those who are not obedient are present in this material, in this Earth and other lower planetary systems. Uh, those people who might have mixed devotion but still obedient to the Supreme Lord, they go to Swarga. Others remain on lower planets. All those who are not obedient, remain on the lower paths. So obedience is basic expectation, requirement, because He is the Supreme Lord. And obedience to the Supreme Lord means obedience to His instructions, obedience to the rules, regulations He has given, obedience to the Guru, obedience to Vaishnavas. So one has to be obedient. So accepting authority is very, very prime, very fundamental. If you're not ready to accept authority, we cannot go back to Krishna. I told this before also. When the day we had to come down mm, because of a curse by Srimati Radharani, because she transgressed Radharani's orders. So in the spiritual world, we cannot hope to remain in the spiritual world, or we will not gain entrance into the spiritual world if we are not ready to accept authority. And generally, we see that devotees want to retain their independence. They don't want to surrender to anybody. They don't want to surrender to Guru as well. So we have to surrender to Guru. We have to surrender to Acharyas. We have to surrender to senior devotees. Mm. We have to surrender to authorities. Otherwise, there's no question of making progress because we will retain our independence and then we will not become eligible to enter Krishna's world. Because in Krishna's world, everybody is obedient. No question of being disobedient. ज्ञानवैराग्ययुक्तेन भक्तियोगेन योगिनः क्षेमाय पादमूलं मे प्रविशन्त्यकुतो भयम्. The yogi is equipped with transcendental knowledge and renunciation. Yogi is equipped with transcendental knowledge and renunciation and engaged in devotional service. So these are yog yogis doing bhakti for their eternal benefit. Take shelter of my lotus feet, and since I am the Lord, they are thus eligible to enter into the kingdom of God without fear. So this is the path actually Kapila Muni actually describes is yoga, dhyana plus bhakti. One who actually wants to be liberated from the entanglement of this material world and go back home back to God, it is actually a mystic yogi. The words explicitly used here are yuktena bhakti yogena. Those yogis or mystics who engage in devotional service are the first class yogis. First class yogis, as described in Bhagavad Gita, are those who constantly are constantly thinking of the Lord, the Supreme Person of Godhead, Krishna. These yogis are not without knowledge and renunciation. To become a bhakti yogi means to automatically attain knowledge and renunciation. That is the consequent result of bhakti yoga. In the Bhagavatam, first canto, second chapter, it's also confirmed that one who engages in the devotional service of Vasudeva Krishna has complete transcendental knowledge and renunciation. And there is no explanation for these attainments. Ahaituki, without reason they come. Even if a person is completely illiterate, transcendental knowledge of the scriptures is revealed unto him simply because of his engagement in devotional service. So if somebody is very nicely engaged in devotional service, and that transcendental knowledge is revealed, even though he might be an illiterate. That's also stated in the Vedic literature. To anyone who has full faith in the Supreme Lord and the spiritual master, all the import of the Vedic scripture literatures is revealed. He does not have to seek separately. The yogi who engages in devotional service is full in knowledge and renunciation. If there is a lack of knowledge and renunciation, it is to be understood that one is not in full devotional service. If there is a lack of knowledge and renunciation, it is to be understood that one is not in full devotional service. But many a times we get this argument saying that no, we just engage in devotional service and then we continue our attachment to body, to clothes, to dressing, to this, to that, and everything else. That means that it's not full devotion. It's partial devotion. It's mixed. Mm. So nowadays, there's a lot of fashion in dressing in ISKCON. Fashion. Mm. And no fashion, actually. If you are really in pure devotion, then we are not bothered. We don't have time for all this fashion. We just simply focus on serving the Supreme Lord. Fashion Women, okay, understandable. Generally, men also. Mm. They want to wear all kinds of fancy kurtas and even sometimes dhotis also, colorful dhotis, all crazy stuff, unheard of during Srila Prabhupada's times. Anything and everything. Yeah, they want to grow like long hair, long beards, etc., etc., which is absolutely not acceptable at all. But unfortunately, nobody tells them anything. They just think that, it's some advancement. It's actually not. The more we are able to stick to the basic principles of Krishna consciousness as given by Srila Prabhupada, the more advanced we are. Very simple thing. Unless there's knowledge and renunciation, we have not come to the stage of full devotion. The conclusion is that one cannot be sure of entrance into the spiritual realm in either the impersonal Brahmajyoti or the Vaikuntha planets unless he is surrendered unto the lotus feet of the Lord. Surrender souls are akuto bhaya. They're doubtless and fearless. And their entrance into the spiritual kingdom is guaranteed. Just see, emphatic statement. They're doubtless and fearless. No doubt, no fear. They will enter the spiritual kingdom, guaranteed. Who? Those devotees who are surrendered unto Krishna. Hmm. So this is what we have to develop, this doubtless and fearless attitude. Not to break rules, not to be reckless. Hmm. Following the rules, completely surrender to the Supreme Lord, surrender to his representative. Then we can be doubtless and fearless because we know we are doing all the right things. And for a sincere devotee, if he is not doing the right things, it will come up. His conscience will prick because he has heard it somewhere, he's read it in Prabhupada's book somewhere, and he sees that, oh, what I'm doing is doesn't seem to be approved. So he's pinpricked. His conscience wakes up saying, no, 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 something I'm doing is wrong. So and then he recognizes, oh, this is my anartha. Okay, I have to get rid of my anartha. And then he works very sincerely to get rid of his anartha. Such devotees can be doubtless and fearless because they don't have any other motive but to simply please Krishna. Mm. So one has to surrender to Krishna. That's the whole point. एतावानेव एव लोकेऽस्मिन् पुंसां निःश्रेय सोदयः तीव्रेण भक्तियोगेन मनोमयि अर्पितं स्थिरम्. The second verse at least that I know where this तीव्रेण bhakti yogena akama sarvakamo va mokshakamo udaradihi तीव्रेण bhakti yogena yadeta purusham param. There Prabhupada translates it differently. Here he's translating it differently. And therefore, persons whose minds are fixed on the Lord engage in intense devotional service. That is the only means for attaining to the final perfection of life. So we can remember this verse and quote this verse, when we hear arguments like, no, no, chill maro, enjoy life. Yeah, we can do that. We can continue. We'll come back to this material world to enjoy, but we're not going to achieve final perfection. If you want to achieve final perfection, that bhakti has to be intense. Intense. We understand this word intense. We have so much intensity towards material things. Same intensity has to come to Krishna. Here the words manomay arpitam, which mean the mind being fixed on me, are significant. One should fix his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna or his incarnation. We don't want incarnation. We want Krishna. Anyway, someone might want some other incarnation. That's okay. One should fix his mind. And today our mind is fixed on everything apart from lotus feet of Krishna. Mm. Mm. So actually, we should also fix our mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. We should remember all the various symbols that are there on the lotus feet of Krishna, lotus hands of Krishna, and lotus feet of Radharani, lotus hands of Radharani. And this is object of meditation, smaranam. We should meditate on this, on all these various symbols actually, and we will understand how far we are from fixing our mind on Krishna. Uh, our mind naturally just goes off. Of course, today Shravanam, chanting and hearing, we are not able to focus our mind. So that itself shows that we can't fix our mind on Krishna. We can try different senses. We can try the eyes. We can try the mind. We can try all the different senses, and we'll see that we can't focus. We can focus for some time maybe, but then the focus goes. Mm. That is because of lack of purity. We are disturbed, materially affected, so we can't focus on Krishna. Uh, so, which is why Bhagavatam, or study of scriptures, is sometimes more powerful, because actually we tend to be more focused while doing Shravanam of Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, reading, etc., than while chanting. But eventually, this focus in reading, hearing, etc., to translate into focus during chanting. Very, very important. Ambarish Maharaja is an example. He fixed his mind. Savai Manav Krishna Padara Vindayor Vachamsi Vaikunta Gunanu Varnane. He fixed his mind on the lotus feet of the Lord. He spoke only of the pastimes of the Lord. He smelled only the flowers and tulsi offered to the Lord. He walked only to the temple of the Lord. He engaged his hands in cleansing the temple. He engaged his tongue in tasting foodstuff offered to the Lord. Engaged in his ears for hearing the great pastimes of the Lord. Can we just, reflect on this? And we can write actually, take a piece of paper and start writing. What all things our mind is fixed on? What all things do we speak about? What all things do we smell? What all things, where all do we go with our legs? How are we engaging our hands? What all are we tasting with our tongue? What are we doing with our ears? Then we will know how far we are from fixing ourselves in Krishna. In that way, all his senses were engaged. First of all, the mind should be engaged at the lotus feet of the Lord, very steadily and naturally. Because the mind is the master of the senses. When the mind is engaged, all the senses become engaged. That is Bhakti Yoga. Yoga means controlling the senses. Senses cannot be controlled in the proper sense of the term. They're always agitated. This is true also with a child. How long can he be forced to sit down silently? Not possible. Even Arjuna said, Chanchalam hi mana Krishna. Mind is always agitated. Best course is to fix the mind on the lotus feet of the Lord. Manomaya arpitam sthiram. If one seriously engages in Krishna consciousness, that is the highest perfectional stage. All Krishna conscious activities are on the highest platform, perfectional level of human life. Mm. So mind is agitated. Mind has to be fixed on Krishna. Mm. Something, something has to put, should fix our mind. Either Shravana process, Kirtana process, Archana process. Something has to fix our mind on Krishna. We have to identify that and make sure that we can engage more in those activities initially. Uh, because post that, after the initially, we want something that can attract us. After that, our mind will get fixed in Ramanam, everything. But the initially, because it's very, very chanchalam, uh, very agitated. So we need something to fix our mind. So which could be the beautiful form of the Lord, it could be kirtan, it could be class, it could be japa, it could be prasadam, it could be anything. And that will draw our mind deeper and deeper in Krishna. And then all other activities will become easier as we make progress. Okay, with that we end the 25th chapter entitled Glories of Devotional Service. Really beautiful chapter. Maybe what you should do is just at least read through the translations once of this chapter. Now that we've discussed the whole chapter, you can just read through the translation once and make note of the important points. And the concluding verse is most important here. Intense devotional service. So unless we do intense devotional service, we cannot achieve perfection. Otherwise, we'll have to come back again. Puna puna. And then again, same thing. Go through the same process. So it's very easy. If you just decide to do intense devotion, then we achieve perfection in this life. Okay, I'll stop here. If there are any questions, comments, etc., we can discuss. Any points? Anything? Okay, no. Everybody is happy, satisfied, or tired.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, I have a question. Uh,
Mm.
uh, what will happen with a person who has a lot of desires and dies at a very young age and is not a
Yo,
devotee? Uh,
he is at a very young age and not a devotee.
uh,
He will, again, whatever his desires, he will take birth in based on his karma, etc. He will take birth in a certain place, and then his desires will come. Mind would have carried forward the desires, and then he will again venture in trying to achieve those desires. That's all. This is what we've been doing.
will he be born as a human again, or based
It
on his
depends on his
karma he will
karma.
get?
Yeah, yeah, it depends
Okay.
on his karma. Yeah.
Okay.
If he's had animalistic desires, then he won't be born as a human.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Okay. There's nothing else.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, understand.
Hare Krishna, Dandavad Mataji.
Prabhuji, we want to do the devotional service,
Mm-hmm.
but some reasons like at home or something, we will not be able to do. So
Some
how
reason your voice is some disturbance. Some reason meaning what? What reason?
like we have some responsibilities at home, like always
Okay.
engaged in our regular duties. How
Uh,
can we do the service?
no, but regular duties, if done as per our, I mean, if they are our prescribed duties, then we should do it with in Krishna consciousness. Like, see, a house is a temple. How we should make the house a temple, and in the temple, all people are inmates. Like it's like living in a temple, like living in an ashram in the temple. So we can serve everybody in that mood. We can to elders, and our attempt should always be to give Krishna consciousness to everybody at home, and also basic, love, affection, etc., and help everybody to make progress towards Krishna. If we live life like that, then our household life will also become Krishna conscious, right? And of course, Grasta life is troubling, right? There's no question about it. And that is why we repeatedly talk about ending, Grasta life soon. Get children married, and then move into Vanaprastha, and then full freedom to do bhakti. But even till then, our whatever activities we are doing, we should always remember that it should be in the service of Guru and Krishna. Meaning, we're not living, as long as we're not living a life of sense gratification. See, the basic point is not necessarily the activities itself. The basic point is the absorption in the activities. A basic point is the disturbance that is being caused in our mind because of those activities. If those activities are sattvic and just our duties, they will not agitate us so much. Right? A devotee who surrendered to the Supreme Lord, even if he is put in the most trying of such circumstances, he is not agitated. So the point is not so much about our activity as much as our agitation. Hmm. So if we are agitated during the day, then we will get agitated during chanting. So the whole point is we live a sattvic life. We follow some kind of a sadhana schedule, right, which is good, which is chanting in Brahma Muhurta, reading at least for an hour, and any hearings or other services that we can do additionally. If we can just continue with this, what should happen is we should see that our chanting quality is good. As long as we can maintain this much, we don't have to be worried about 24 hours engaged in direct devotional service. That stage will come later, but right now we don't have to be worried about that. We just have to be worried about how am I able to maintain my consciousness so that I am able to chant nicely. And what is that maintaining consciousness means? Not being attached to material things, just doing it as a matter of duty. So if you actually live like this, there is no issue. There's no issue. We have to practice this. See, this is a matter of practice. See, sadhana, we should change this name sadhana. Actually, we don't seem to understand seriously the word sadhana. Sadhana means practice to achieve something, right? So we should practice. Oh, okay. Now I should try not to get attached to this particular thing. Okay. From today, I will start the practice. I'll start the attempt. Maybe it might take me 15 days. It might take me 1 month. It might take me 2 months. But I'm trying and trying and trying. It's like losing weight, right? If you want to lose weight, then there's a program, then there's a regime, and then you have a goal, and then you're trying. Oh yeah, 50 grams reduced, 100 grams reduced, 500 grams reduced, etc. Right? So it's like that. Sadhana is like that, which is what yesterday also we were discussing. We should have list of things that we need to be doing to improve our consciousness, and one after other we should try, sincerely try. And when we can't figure out what needs to be done, we should consult senior devotees who have been there, done it, and by their guidance, try to implement those things in our life. Simple. Bhakti is simple, but we complicate. For two reasons. One is we are not really introspective. Two is we don't want to surrender to authorities. If we can just overcome these two things, uh, we can make progress. No issues. Okay.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Anything else? Anybody? Okay, so we will not have a class tomorrow. So I wish you all a very happy Gaur Purnima. Mm. So try to engage in as much Shravanam of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as possible from now on till Monday. Mm. Yeah. Okay, we can close here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyo Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Then